If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com.
It's Cougar football Saturday, so come on down and watch the home team play. Now we're talking football. It's time to cheer. Pac-10 football is here, so come on down and help your Cougars win. It's Wazoo football time again. Bring your friend. Do a little tailgate. It's Cougar football Saturday, and you got green lights all the way. Cougar football's a family affair, and you know all your friends will be there. So come on down and help the Cougars win. It's Wazoo football time.
Excuse me, I didn't quite catch that. We are recording, by the way, Paul Sorensen. Yeah, and I'm going to leave that in there.
No,
Gonna
you're not.
leave it in there.
No,
yes,
you're not.
I am.
No, you're not.
Leaving it in. Can't
No.
take it out. Peter Alice, can't take it out. All right, it's Old Crimson Podcast, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub, Cougar owned and operated. 6 great locations across the state: Kirkland, Pioneer Square, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. They've got you covered for everything. Large group events, great place for kids, great place for a work event, family event, just a friend's event. Does not matter. Go visit our friends Andy Largent and the crew at Flat Stick Pub. Joining me every week to talk Cougar football and whatever else we can come up with, Paul Sorensen, All-American safety at Washington State. You can follow him on social media at Paul Sorensen 28, and the legend, Jim Moore, the go-to guy at Cougs Go. Boys, how are we? Jim, I'm gonna start with you. How was your visit back to Pullman to go watch Louisiana Tech? I saw you. We had a great weekend together. You've been over to Pullman a lot. How was your time there in God's country?
Oh, God, I had a blast. I mean, just did the same things over and over again. Went to Zeppo's and bowled with you and your family, and then running into you that night at the stadium too. And going to Valhalla. I didn't make it to the Coug. I just was at Valhalla, upstairs, downstairs. Looking around, going, Jesus Christ, I'm 45 years older than everybody in here, but what the hell? Go Cougs! So it was a fun weekend, and capped off with a terrific game. I mean, our defense was great. We looked good, and the only disappointment was the crowd, but I guess that was to be expected. A night game, an opponent no one's too excited about, but still, it was a little. You looked around and you thought, oh my God, I can't believe it. I swear to God, I think there are only about 500 people on the South Side. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but not by much.
Paul, I'm going to come to you in a second. Let me just stick with you, Jim. Yeah, I mean, that was, at least for our family, that was the first time to get over there for a game, just with, athletics and football.
Because you're
and all
not
that
as
kind
big
of
a
stuff.
Coug as I am, basically.
I am not. It's been well documented. Not as big of a Cougar fan as you are. It was good to reintroduce myself to all my seatmates over there in section 23, but the crowd was bad. It wasn't good. Now, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. I mean, this is a rinse and repeat story, though, unfortunately, and it was worse last weekend because of the opponent. I mean, it's a bad opponent. No one knows anything about him. Had it been Arizona or Arizona State or Utah, whoever, I think that you would have had a better turnout. And I think the start time certainly doesn't help. And then the game hit a lull. And then I think we talked about this last week, Jim, or a couple of weeks ago. I think the style in which they play is very unfamiliar to Cougar fans. And I think it causes a little bit of anxiety to watch that style of play. Do you not agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I'm just giving you my own opinion. I don't feel that way watching Cougar football this year. I like the way we're playing overall. And it doesn't occur to me that when I'm sitting there, gee, I wish we were flinging the ball all over the lot like we used to do. I like seeing us play defense, and I just like, we're good enough offensively to get it done against most teams. So, but maybe, maybe that is a factor. I don't know. You'd have to poll 100 Cougs and find out. Maybe 95 of them feel the same way you do. But that doesn't occur to me when I'm sitting there at the stadium.
I feel that I agree with you. I like the way that they play. I'm just saying I wonder if other fans feel that anxiety, that they've been used to watching something being thrown, the football being thrown all over the field, and scoring a bunch of points. Paul, I don't know. Do you ever get a sense of that, Paul Sorensen, that maybe sometimes fans are like, all right, I'm glad we won and all of that, but God, I miss the days of Mike Leach throwing it 50 times and all up and down the field, receivers running wide open.
Fuck no.
Oh, okay.
No.
Jeez. Wow.
No.
Wow.
We scored one touchdown through the air in 1981. Cameron Mitchell against USC won. Okay. Basically, from the perspective of football, when winning gets old, what are we doing? Why are we even out there, getting excited about anything? And I totally understand the situation in terms of fans because of the last 2 years in terms of what happens with the regulation, and all the different things that's going on. You can watch the games on national television and sit at home. Jim has to drive 5.5 hours from Bend. You got to drive 5 hours from Seattle. I get that. Totally understand that. But when we lose the passion to go support a football team that's trying to win and trying to rebuild and trying to survive and trying to handle all the things that have been laid on our plate in the last 2 years, then what the hell are we doing? So no, from a defensive perspective, I love the way that we're smacking people around. And you look at what's happened the last 4 games, they've given up 6 points a game. And they lost one of them. They gave up 10 points and lost to the Bees, for Christ's sake. And yet they're just pounding people on defense. They're doing conservative stuff on offense because they can win the football game with special teams and defense. So you're talking to absolutely the wrong person when it comes to flinging the football all over the field, because I come from the other side of the ball. So I absolutely love what they're doing. I know you see the perspective in terms of how they're I'll just give you a couple little stats here, okay? I'm a stat guy. I kind of like that kind of stuff. They're 14th.
Before you get to your stats, Paul,
let me finish. Before you interrupt, Jim, let me finish my little thing. I get a couple little segments, and I found this. I wanted to bring it up. 14th in pass defense. They give up 168 yards a game. Okay. 18th in total D, 304 yards a game. 34th in scoring defense, 21 points a game. And that includes the 59 they gave up against Washington, the 55 against North Texas, and 27th in red zone defense, which is pretty darn good. That's 76%. So every time they get inside the 20, they keep them out, about 75% of the time. Those are really, really good numbers considering where they were when they first started the season.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. When you said the last 4, I took it out to the last 6 after the Washington game. And from Colorado State on, this defense is giving up 11.5 points per game and 287 yards of total offense. It is, again, you can say that there's other factors in there, that the offenses that they played, but in that 6-game stretch includes Ole Miss, by the way, includes Virginia. This is a defense that is fast, it is aggressive. They have cleaned up, Jim Moore, the tackling issues that maybe they had in the beginning of the season. I credit their defensive staff overall because they've had a bunch of injuries up front, but they just keep plugging guys in left and right. All right, you wanted to interject something when Paul was reading off those stats. Go ahead.
Oh, I did. And it was, I don't know, of the times that we've been doing the Old Crimson podcast, what is it? Is this like our 7th or 8th podcast, I think? I don't think we've ever gone 4.5 minutes at the start of the show without Paul Sorensen saying a word. And then when it was his turn to speak, he comes out with a fuck no. I mean, were you tired of waiting that long, Paul, before you got the stage?
No.
You're going to be mad at me by the end of this podcast,
no,
aren't you?
He's not. He's not going to be mad at you at the end of the show. I think you could see. I think for the first time after that game in particular, and again, I couldn't see his face during the game because we're sitting in the stands, but afterwards when I saw his interview on the field, and then I saw him in the locker room, I think that's the first time I've seen Jamie Rogers smile.
Jimmy,
I think he was so happy of how they played that game to win a game.
Yeah.
What was the final? Why am I blanking on the final?
28-3. 28-3.
Yeah, 28-3. I think he was so happy of, again, his defense just not allowing anything. And part of it is because, Louisiana Tech they lost their starting quarterback. Then their backup quarterback gets banged out. They couldn't do anything. There was nothing that team was going to do. And it probably led into some of the play calling. It was kind of very conservative. But he ended that game on a what? How long was that one of those last drives? 8-9 minutes where they just kept the ball and pounded it. Again, we talked about this, at least I did, in the beginning of the season. When you get into November and you need to close somebody out, what is going to be refreshing about this new look is that type of drive. Because we haven't seen that in a long, long time. And I know people maybe get frustrated at times with the offense, but I don't know. He looked as happy as I've ever seen him in that on-field interview. And then I don't know if you guys saw in the locker room, the WSU creative team released them jumping around and doing all, and he's in the middle of the pile, the biggest shit-eating grin on his face, Jim Moore, because that's the type of game he loves. Exactly how that contest played out.
Yeah, I missed that. I saw a snippet of him smiling during a press conference this week, though. And so, yeah, it's good to see that side of Jimmy Rogers. I think, the more that he's getting used to the whole thing, being at Washington State, being in South Dakota as long as he was, that we're going to see more of his personality come out. But again, all in all, I think in this transition year, and Paul talks about, us barnstorming around the country and everything, and we're going to be doing it again this week. It's really been, it's not a sensational season, but I think it's been a successful season overall. And of course, we can cap it off. I'm really excited, honestly, I was talking to my kids about it this weekend. Normally, if we're 6-6, I kind of go, God, we're going to go to a low rent bowl game. I don't care how low rent the bowl game is this year. I want to see this team play a 13th game. I think they deserve that.
Paul, I would say just where they're at right now, 5-5. They got James Madison coming up this weekend. There were reports, erroneous apparently, that College Game Day was going to go there. Some have speculated that maybe because it leaked out, they decided to pull out because they don't like it to be scooped. And said they're going to Oregon, USC. I don't know what the truth is, but James Madison's a very good football team record-wise, certainly in the mix for one of those spots there in the college football playoff. But they travel on the road, and you talked about this barnstorming tour that they have been on. At 5-5, a chance to get to 7-5, and then go play in a bowl game, or maybe it ends 6-6 and they go to a bowl game. But with everything that has transpired, so far, how would you characterize the season under Jimmy Rogers in year one?
I would echo what Jim said. I completely agree with Jim. I think at the beginning of the season, with the 75, 76 guy turnover, with the staff turnover, with the carnage going on in the barnstorming, with all the stuff that's hit this team, you've lost your athletic director, you've got change all over the place, you got a new conference coming up in 26. I'll give you an example. Washington State's opponent record right now is 62-42. They played 4 top 25 teams, all on the road, except Washington at home, which they beat. They're 4-1 at home, which is pretty cool. James Madison is 44-57. They play out of the Sun Belt. The Cougs have beaten 2 teams with winning records. James Madison has beaten 1 team with a winning record. I think they got a great chance to go in there, and they're a good football team, but they've played good football teams on the road, and all you had to do is, go back there. So if they could figure out a way to knock these guys off, come back, and then the lovely Beavs, you don't think Oregon State would take a 5-5 record right now with all the stuff that has gone on with that program? Firing their coach, all the different things, the infighting, everything that has happened, they would take what's going on at WSU right now in a second. So that's where I'm at. I'm happy. Win, do whatever you can to get back home and have a chance to get a 6th or 7th win, go to a bowl game, get that 13th, victory, and get those kids up to speed. And I think it's fantastic what Jimmy Rogers and his staff has done.
And here's one thing I would want to follow up on that, Jim Moore, is that I think if you look at all their victories this year, I don't think they have a win in which you go, God, they were lucky to win that game. Maybe you can, maybe Idaho in week 1. Maybe you can dance with that one.
Yeah, Idaho for sure.
But other than that, they've got all their losses except for, Washington. You can make a case that, or in North Texas, that you can make a case that, God, if ball bounces another way, they beat Ole Miss or Virginia. And they certainly should have beat Oregon State.
Oh, it was a 7-point game, Puck, going to the fourth quarter.
The question was to Jim Moore, not to you, Paul.
I was
That's why I said
what
Jim
Paul has
Moore.
to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was just going to say it was a 7-point game going into the fourth quarter. Sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to step on your toes
For the
because
Apple
I
Cup.
admire your feet for the Apple Cup.
No, Paul, you never step on my toes.
Well,
I just like giving you shit.
Hey, Paul,
That's all.
I agree with you on the Apple Cup. But listen, I think that the score is misleading once you get into what the actual score was going in the fourth quarter. It certainly got away, from them in that fourth quarter. But I guess, Jim, my point was they have a lot more misses on the losses than they certainly do on the wins. They were certainly lucky in some of these wins that they've had this year.
Well, really, the only two games that you look at and you go, man, that was disappointing. Of course, Oregon State, our reliable kicker. Normally, he's going to make that. We'll probably win in overtime. I mean, that you can if and but your way to a win in that one pretty easily. The North Texas game was one of those games, though, that I was just like, really? What the hell happened? So that was the biggest disappointment to me. Of course, losing to the Huskies always a disappointment, but still, all in all, I look at this game this week and
I think they should be 7-3. They should be 7-3 right now because they should have beat Oregon State and they should have beat Virginia.
But I love us. I love us with 13.5 this week. And for two reasons, I think, and Paul, you can speak to this because you played the game and Puck and I just talk about it. I would think that if you're the Cougs going into that game and you're already experienced with across the country travel and you're going in there and you're facing a team that you can knock out of that college football playoff picture. Yeah. And I know normally you'd look at James Madison and go, God, how can we get fired up for James Madison? Heard Neuheisel talking about it the other day, and I think when they come out with the rankings later tonight, that James Madison's going to be the 12th team. They're going to be the group of 5 team that's in there. Yeah. And so also the other thing I'm thinking, and I take it too far with this psychobabble stuff, I got to admit. But if I'm James Madison, I'm starting to think, hey, man, we might be able to pull this off. And I think they might get a little, they might be choking in this game because they're on the verge of doing something probably for the first time in school history. And they're probably looking at Washington State going, who are these guys? And then we come in and then they start choking. And in the fourth quarter, we win the game and spoil their day. Go Cougs, man. I think it might happen.
And not only that, Paul, it's what everything that Jim just laid out. I mean, again, they're getting a lot of talk and a lot of buildup about them being one of the outside teams that makes it into the college football playoff. You got to deal with that as a program. And now their head coach is being thrown out everywhere.
UCLA?
Specifically UCLA as being the leading guy. So they're getting prepared for this game, which for them on the schedule right now is the biggest game of the year for them, basically because of what's going to happen with the college football rankings coming out, where they're going to be. And now they've got to read stories to these players. Some who've been there for 4 years. They just lost Curt Cignetti a couple of years ago. Same deal, leaves, has success, leaves, goes to Indiana. Now these same guys who've been there for 4 or 5 years, they've got to read all these stories of Bob Chesney, who was the head coach there, took over for Cignetti, now being rumored to be the leading candidate at UCLA. Distractions, all of that, I think, plays a factor into the game on Saturday. I'm surprised by the line, but as we know, Paul, Vegas always knows, which makes me nervous, but I am surprised at 2 touchdowns in that game.
31.5 points at Ole Miss. What was the Virginia line when we went back there? Wasn't it 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, something
17,
like that.
I think.
And what were we last weekend? 8.5? Was it an 8.5 point?
But if you're Mikey Moore, I think you buy it up to 9.5.
I bought us up to 14.5 this week.
Well, I don't think Vegas has gotten it right, yet on the Cougs. And I'll also suggest that, this is the first time that JMU, I always call him Dolly Madison because I always get the name wrong. I think of the Cupcake Company. When you look at me, it makes total sense on
cupcakes. You think that's funny, Paul?
Yeah, I think
when you say that.
Funny.
Did you practice that before the show?
No, I just pulled that out because I was.
You think somebody's listening right now going, God, that's Sorensen. He's a clever, crafty guy.
Let me hit pause on the show right now to get out my laughter.
You You remember how grumpy Jim was when I stepped in with one little thing in the Apple Cup and then he pops off about, me practicing a joke? Jeez Louise.
Well,
nice
I
job
mean,
there.
I don't even
Cuppy
remember
there.
that, Paul.
All right. Anyway, so I've completely forgot where my storyline was going
That's
here.
what old age does. Paul.
Yeah, I know it does. Anyway, James Madison, I think you're exactly right,
Come
guys.
on, you come up with something else.
The
Just
distractions
babble
are all over
about
the
something
place.
else.
It's like this freaking podcast. It spins off in orbit. We have no idea where it's going. We're just going to, turn into a black hole.
Neither do I.
I'm gonna steer back on the road for you
Thank
because
you.
we've talked about this a lot. Devin Ellison, we talked about him a lot. Outstanding wide receiver.
On that.
No longer a part of the football team. Why?
Distractions within the locker room, didn't do the job in the classroom, and there was basically a issue with him and not being a good fit for Washington State. We'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Academics.
Did we not pay him enough? Is that what was there a problem with paying him?
Really?
So.
Yeah,
I mean,
you and your 1890. By the way, how much freaking money did you spend on beer and pizza this weekend? You couldn't parcel $18.90 away. Did you save enough for that little segment there, Mr. Cheapy Pants? Okay. Nice work. No, it had nothing to do with NIL, okay? It had everything to do with fit, not knowing the plays, and not going to class. How about that? End of story.
Because he's had, in his past, he had academic issues. Academic issues have followed Devin Ellison wherever he went. It was the same issue at his junior college, and it appears to kind of be the issue there. It's too bad because he was the one thing that is – because that's the one thing missing from this offense in the passing game. They don't have a deep threat. And you saw his impact immediately there in the Apple Cup. But you know what? I mean, if you can't fit in and you can't go to school, you can't stay eligible, it's all part of it. And I like how Jimmy Rogers has handled this situation personally. It's a difficult one. You don't want to, he was asked what happened. He just said, listen, it's going to stay between me and Devin Ellison. So I think that's the best way to respond to something like that. I also liked how we responded this week to, player retention. You just say, hey, we're not going to bat 1,000. That's the reality of it. Guys are going to leave. But he just hopes that the culture that they've created, kind of the mindset that they've created, and all of that will help people with their retention. And I would say this, if you are on, this leads me to the next point. We haven't got to it yet, and that would be more Vorhees. If you like watching Kirby Vorhees run, I would join whatever NIL you want to join, because there's like 13 different ones over there, but just give something to the NIL over there, because that kid who is playing really good football right now, getting more carries, he should average more carries actually for this football team. He is going to be the most sought after player on that team. Your programs are going to be lining up and going to throw big money at that kid to get him to transfer. So if you're on the fence and you like watching that kid run, I would join the collective and see if you can retain him, because he's going to be the number one player. Wouldn't you agree, Paul, for all these teams coming in trying to pick apart this roster?
Well, I think the DN's going to be a Terrell, Bobby Boucher, he's going to be up there. I think the corners are going to be in play. There's going to be some really good guys. And Jimmy Rogers said the same thing in the press conference. He came out and basically said, we're going to do our best to try to retain as many guys as we can. We're probably going to have a hard time doing that, but we'll just do our best.
So, Jim, when you do your donation, it's going to ask you, who do you want this for? Kirby Vorhees.
Kirby Vorhees. I don't believe it will ask me that, Puck, but
it does. It does. You can say who you want it to go to.
I will second the motion. What I was going to say is that two of the guys that were supposed to be our biggest playmakers, Ellison and Angel Johnson, have not panned out and still were effective offensively without those guys. So that speaks to Danny Freund and everybody else, that's a part in that offense.
Yeah. Yeah, Angel Johnson, that's just been a great mystery. You really didn't see him. I think he touched the ball five times maybe last week. Yeah, it's been a struggle for him, no doubt, all season long. But for Vorhees, he's averaging about 13.4 carries over the last 5 games. I would just like to see that increase even more. He's just a different style runner. And I just think that he brings the way he runs. He doesn't lose yards. He's always going forward. And he just plays, he lowers his shoulder, and he just plays with great not just athleticism, but just great physicality every time he touches the ball. Paul, let's move on to athletic director. And I don't think we talked about this. Ann McCoy out. Betsy Cantwell firing Ann McCoy. She'd been there for a very long time. Short time in the AD's role, but a long time. Coug, 25 plus years over there in the athletic department. What are we hearing on the future of that? What are names should Cougar fans kind of be listening for the new AD at WSU?
Well, it's going to have to be somebody that can raise money. That's been evidently clear. And I will first say this: I really like Ann McCoy personally. She just did an awesome job at WSU, and she was thrown into the absolute blender, at Washington State with regards to what happened, the last year and a half with the Pac-12 blowing up and trying to steer this fiasco through the landmines that we've seen. And so I have nothing but great respect for Ann McCoy. I love the lady. I love what she did. I feel bad for her from that perspective for losing her job. But, from a fundraising standpoint, that was not necessarily her strength. So they're going to look for somebody that can raise money, that can inspire basically the fundraiser folks to get to that $20 million, number that the President Cantwell wants to basically lead this program into 2026, into the new Pac-12. And so I think you go back to the Utah State former athletic director who had two $10 million gifts, who was able to steer Utah State into the Pac-12, which was kind of a surprise. I think many people didn't think that Utah State had the acumen from that perspective, so she did a nice job there. She's now the associate athletic director at Maryland. I've also heard the name of the athletic director at San Diego State pop up, and I think there's several other folks out there, the Montana State AD, or just a couple of names, but I'm sure she has a short list, and I'm sure that wasn't something that she didn't take a deep dive into before she made that change. So there's going to be a search, but I'm sure that there was people reaching out to folks before that decision was made, and I think it'll be a decision that'll be reached rather quickly.
Jim Moore, her stated goal is $20 million to raise for the athletic department, really for the football team. How much will President Cantwell spend on herself of the $20 million?
Hopefully zero, Puck. But at Utah State, what she spend on furnishings in her office and a bidet.
You wrote the story.
You
tell everybody what she did at Utah State. She spent a lot of money on herself.
Yeah, what was it, like $600,000 or something like that? I forget what the total was. But
I think the best purchase was the bidet.
The $750 bidet, which is pretty top of the line. You probably get seat warmers with it and that type of thing. And I know it might not be anything that's a big deal, but it's a red flag to some of us. And so maybe she's ruthless and she's going to do a great job. And we should have had her as president a long time ago. But I don't know. I just think that there should be some reporting being done on what happened there at Utah State. Utah State they're going to adopt a policy to prevent this kind of stuff from happening in the future. And maybe this has nothing to do with anything that's going to happen at Washington State. And we won't care if she spends $500,000 on her office there in Pullman, but maybe it would be one of those things that we look back on and go, God, we should have paid a little more attention to some of those warning signs with her.
It's got very early signs. Hold on. Paul, I know you're shaking your head because you don't think this is a story. This has got a very early glimpse of storylines of Larry Scott.
Oh,
it does.
Yeah, it does. It just, Paul, here's the thing, Paul. It's not a non-story. It's not. It just, I like her and I like what she said so far, but the spending spree when she was the president there is a little alarming.
Yeah,
it's a little alarming.
Just make sure you don't push the wrong button on the bidet. Yeah. I got surprised, and that was very interesting when we were over in Europe. But
Paul, seriously, wait, Paul, seriously, why do you disagree with this? I'm just curious to hear the other side of it.
Well, no, I mean, why are you diving into what happened at Utah State? Why aren't you focusing on what's going on at Washington State? Why is that a story now?
Because why would they hire? That's a warning flag. Why would they hire her?
That's a warning flag.
Yes,
what sense?
It is to me. It is to me.
What has she done at Washington State that's warranted a deep dive into what's going on now? Because you
a
were
person's
mad at
background,
her
a person's
firing Ann
background has
McCoy?
something to do with the person. That's the person you're hiring.
She's
You
already
want to know
hired.
about it's just like
Well,
all of us, who have a resume, like
I think where Jim's getting at is she was only the president there for 18 months.
it wasn't
It was
long.
it was very short. So why leave that quickly for another job? And then this story comes out that she was spending all this money. Again,
It's like a
Paul, I
lateral
don't
move.
know.
Is it not a lateral move?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how big of a story it is, but I do think it's a story, and I think it is a little. I think it raises an eyebrow when you see how much money she was spending.
Well,
Now,
if you've been to Logan, Utah, maybe there were some upgrades that needed to be taken into consideration.
Oh.
So from that perspective, and whatever. I mean, I don't know enough about that to comment, but I will also focus that it's kind of, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. There's a lot of smoke and mirror kind of stuff, and I think it's a non-story. I don't agree with it. So that's my perspective, and you're not going to change my mind on that. So you can have your say. I'm going to have my say. I would rather focus on the future, go get somebody that can raise money, and put Washington State in a position that it's going to compete at the top end of the new conference as opposed to the bottom, period.
I think we can all agree on that one. We can absolutely all agree on that one. I just don't want in the future something to come out where you're like,
I don't think any of us do, Puck, and I agree with Jim on that. If it is a story that comes up, Jim's going to win a Pulitzer, for Christ's sake, and he's going to be Karnak for looking into the future.
First of
and then
all,
we're all
all
going
he
to bow
did-
down. I'm going to have to drive down to Ben and weed his
First
freaking
of all,
garden.
let's
But,
not give him any credit. All he did was Google her fucking name, and it popped up. Not like he did any research, for Christ's sakes. All right, hey, real quick before we go, James
That's not
Madison.
very nice.
Well, yeah, but that's what you did. James at Madison, 9-1, first place in the Sun Belt. Only lost to Louisville, 28-14. They're going to do all their damage on the ground. So the Cougar defense has got to stop the ground attack. Wayne Knight is the bell cow. He's up for the Paul Hornung Award, given the most versatile player in college football. He's got 840 total yards on the season. He's averaging 6.2 yards a carry. Alonzo Barnett, the third, their quarterback, dual threat guy. So they're going to want to run it a lot. They average 232 yards on the ground. So for Washington State, they're going to have to try and take that out, make them one-dimensional. It's an early one, 10 a.m. Pacific on ESPN+. So make sure, Jim, you figure out how to get ESPN Plus on your TV.
Puck, I've already got that handle. I'm so damn proud of myself.
Good.
Yeah, I've got it handled because YouTube TV, they had a falling out with Disney, so you weren't able to get ESPN unless you got the ESPN
So now you're
app.
back.
And now the ESPN app includes all the ESPN Plus stuff. It's an extra $30 a month, but what the hell?
Yeah.
I will tell you this, and Paul, will this be okay with you? I'm going to put 200 on the Cougs and 13.5 this week.
Okay. Good.
Or whatever a yearly $18.90 subscription is.
220,
and then
226, 30.
I'll double my donation then. Can I have two memberships in the 1890 club? Is that okay? Or you just have one? So
No, you
whatever,
can do as many
200,
as you
whatever
want,
time.
Just go up the next tier,
No,
you
that's
dumbo.
Hey, I love that. That's way to step up. That's awesome, man. I appreciate
Now, what if he
and
loses,
I appreciate
though?
the fact
What if
you
he
drove
loses?
from Ben to Pullman
Paul,
to surprise your kids
Paul.
and go to the game. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Paul, if he loses, then he's not going to donate. So this
Well-
is all dependent on him winning the bet.
No,
That's
I'm
Do you
still going to
understand
donate.
that?
I'm still going to donate.
No, you're
I don't know if it'll be
No, you're
okay
not.
with Glenn Ousterhood or not.
He's not
but
going to. He's never going to donate, and then the season's going to be over. And I'll do.
I'm
I'll
going to
do it next
donate.
year.
I told you. I pay up on whatever I say I'm going to
Yeah.
do. Like I lost to Joel Damon $200.
Yeah, has
on
he
the
ever
last
paid
game.
that Joel Damon bet, by
paid
the
him.
way?
He
Did you?
claims. I'll send a text to Joel. He claims he did, but I have not confirmed it from Damon.
I thought he was going to caddy for him. I think that wasn't the final outcome. He never paid it. He was just going to caddy or do something along those lines. He was going to help him out on a golf event.
He just said to me, he goes, "Hey man, just donate to my charity,
Sure.
joeldamon.com," and I did it. So I will donate to the 1890 Club. I'll get two memberships. You see that? Two. Yeah.
I'm used to just seeing one finger when you point
you'll
at
get
me.
two.
So thank you.
Win. You don't need to get two, by the way, but win or lose, you're donating.
Yeah, but I won't donate as much if I lose.
Okay. All right, that's
that
it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Old Crimson podcast in the books, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Andy Large and the crew do a great job over there. They got you covered date night, guys night, ladies night, large group events. 6 great locations across the state, from Spokane all the way to Bellingham. Visit them at flatstickpub.com. Paul Sorensen,
Can you believe that people dislike me, Paul? Can you believe
All-American
it?
safety
come
at
on.
Washington State, and
Jesus.
Jim Moore, the
Likable
one and only
Jim
at
Moore.
Cougs
Legendary
Go.
and likable.
Go Cougs.
We'll see you next week.
Go
Go
Cougs.
Cougs.